If you died tonight in your sleep, your debt would not die with you. It would transfer to your spouse, to your children, to the estate you spent your entire working life trying to build. And here is what no bank will ever tell you before you sign the paperwork. The agreement you signed was designed by people who studied exactly how to make that debt as permanent as possible, not as a conspiracy. As mathematics, Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived, the architect of an empire that generated the equivalent of hundreds of billions of dollars annually, looked at this exact structure 3,000 years ago and wrote a sentence so precise that modern economists still cannot improve on it. He said, "The borrower is slave to the lender." Not metaphor, not poetry, a commercial legal diagnosis. By the end of this teaching, you will understand the ancient Hebrew debt framework that Jewish merchants used for 3,000 years to make debt slavery structurally impossible in their lives. You will have a 4-part exit architecture that you can begin applying this week. Not next year, this week. And before we close, there is a prayer waiting for you. A prayer not for more money, but for the kind of wisdom that makes the wrong relationship with money impossible. If you have ever felt the weight of an obligation that never seems to get smaller no matter how hard you work, give this video a like right now. It costs you nothing, and it tells us this teaching needs to reach more people. Let us begin with the diagnosis, and it is going to be uncomfortable. Here is the modern financial model as they handed it to you. Get a degree. Take the student loan. It is an investment in your future. Buy a house. Take the mortgage. You are building equity. Start a business. Take the startup loan. Leverage is how the wealthy operate. Buy a car. Take the EMI. It is affordable monthly. And you believed it. Because each piece of that advice sounded like insider wisdom. It sounded like the code the wealthy use. It sounded like access. But here is what they never showed you on the brochure. The student loan charges you interest before you earn your first salary. The mortgage interest in the first 10 years goes almost entirely to the bank, not to your equity. The business loan obligates your personal assets the moment the business struggles. The car EMI ends with you owning a vehicle worth half what you paid for it. You were not given a tool. You were handed a chain, and the chain was polished to look like a ladder. The mathematics are merciless. Let me show you exactly what I mean. A person earns the equivalent of $3,000 per month. They carry a mortgage payment of $900, a car payment of $350, a credit card minimum of $200, a student loan payment of $250. That is $1,700 in monthly obligations, 56% of their income. Before they buy a single meal, they are not building a life. They are servicing the financial institutions that decided their income before they ever negotiated their salary. Now here is the statistic that should stop you cold. Research consistently shows that the average household carries debt obligations that require 15 to 20 years of payments to extinguish, assuming zero new debt is added. That means millions of people are already financially committed through the next 2 decades of their lives, and they signed those documents in an afternoon. Solomon had a word for what I just described. He called it Eved. In Hebrew, Eved means slave, not a metaphor, not rhetorical flourish. In ancient commercial law, Eved was the precise legal classification for a person whose labor was obligated to another party before they received it. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 7. Read it slowly with me. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Solomon was not making a spiritual observation. He was issuing a commercial legal warning. He was telling you, the moment you sign that document, you have legally classified yourself as someone whose future productivity belongs, in part, to someone else first. Stop right now and ask yourself honestly, how much of your next paycheck is already spent before it arrives? I want you to do something that most people never do. I want you to type one number in the comments right now. Just a number, nothing else. What percentage of your monthly income goes to debt repayment before you spend anything else? Just the number, 40, 50, 60, whatever it is. I want you to see it written down because the people reading those comments are sitting with the same number. And the moment you write it, it stops being a vague anxiety and becomes something you can actually address. Drop the number now. We are going deeper. Before we go further into the ancient framework, let me establish something important. Solomon was not a philosopher, sitting in a library, writing about wealth from theory. He was running the most sophisticated commercial operation of the ancient world from the seat of practical daily experience. 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 14 tells us that Solomon received 25 tons of gold every single year in revenue, not total lifetime wealth. Annual income, the equivalent in today's market, would be measured in hundreds of billions of dollars. He managed trade routes connecting Egypt to Arabia, to Phoenicia, to the Eastern Mediterranean. He operated a fleet of ships. 1 Kings chapter 9 describes his joint naval venture with King Hiram of Tyre, running expeditions to Ophir every 3 years. He oversaw lumber contracts, architectural projects of impossible scale, grain storage systems, and an administrative network governing hundreds of officials. He did all of this without computers, without banks, without modern contract law. And yet, in the middle of managing all of that complexity, he sat down and wrote a warning about debt that has never been improved upon in 3,000 years. That is not coincidence. That is pattern recognition from a man who had seen, at the highest possible level, what debt does to nations, to merchants, to families, and to individuals who misunderstand its true nature. The ancient Hebrews developed a body of commercial wisdom that governed how money, debt, and obligation functioned in their society, and embedded within it were protections so sophisticated that the world would not rediscover them for millennia. The most important of these protections was not a prayer, it was a law, and that law is what we are going inside right now. Solomon's commercial philosophy on debt was not a single verse. It was a layered architecture. 3 layers, each one deeper than the last. And most people who quote the first layer have never been shown the second or third. Layer 1, the legal classification. Proverbs 22:7, we already read it. But let us go inside the Hebrew. The word translated as slave is Eve. In the Mosaic legal framework, Eve described a specific class of person. Not someone in chains, but someone whose labor obligations were legally pre-assigned to another party. They still walked freely, they still managed their own household, but a portion of their productive capacity legally belonged to their creditor before it belonged to them. Modern financial law has quietly recreated this exact structure and given it a different name. They call it a debt obligation. When you sign a loan agreement, you are legally pre-assigning a portion of every paycheck you will earn, for months or years, to the institution that lent to you. You still walk freely, you still manage your own household, but Solomon's legal category applies. You are, by the precise definition he used, Eve to your lender. This is not condemnation, this is diagnosis, and diagnosis is the first step toward freedom. At layer 2, the national principle. Most people have read Proverbs and never connected it to the macroeconomic policy embedded in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 12. God speaks to Israel as a nation and says, "The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none." Pause on that phrase. You will lend to many nations, but borrow from none. This was not a spiritual aspiration. This was a national economic architecture, a civilization designed from its founding document to be structurally positioned as a creditor, not a debtor. Think about the commercial implication. A nation of creditors accumulates the interest. A nation of debtors pays it. A nation of creditors controls the terms. A nation of debtors accepts them. Solomon inherited this as his foundational commercial principle. And when you examine his trade agreements, the cedar contracts with Hiram of Tyre, the grain arrangements with surrounding nations, the tribute systems from conquered territories, every agreement positions Israel as the provider of value, not the receiver of obligation. He was not accidentally wealthy. He was architecturally positioned for wealth from the structure of his agreements before a single transaction was made. Now, here is the question that should be sitting with you right now. Are you architecturally positioned as a lender of value in your own life or as a buyer of obligations? At layer 3, the Nehemiah Intervention. This is the layer most Sunday school lessons never reach, and it is the one Solomon's entire philosophy was pointing toward. Nehemiah chapter 5. The Jewish people have returned from Babylonian captivity. They are rebuilding Jerusalem. And in the middle of this enormous national reconstruction effort, Nehemiah, the governor, receives a devastating report. Jewish families are mortgaging their fields, mortgaging their vineyards, mortgaging their houses to buy grain. And when they cannot pay, their sons and daughters are being taken as debt slaves by their own fellow Jews. Verse 6 says Nehemiah was very angry when he heard this. But notice what he does next. He does not simply pray about it. He does not simply preach about it. He calls an assembly. He confronts the nobles and officials directly. And in verse 11, he says, "Give back to them immediately their fields, their vineyards, their olive groves and their houses, and also the interest you are charging them." Interest. He specifically names interest as the mechanism of the exploitation. And then something extraordinary happens. The nobles agree. The debt is cancelled. The fields are returned. And in verse 13, and this is the detail that reveals everything, Nehemiah says, "I also shook out the folds of my robe and said, 'In this way may God shake out of their house and possessions anyone who does not keep this promise. So may such a person be shaken out and emptied.'" A covenant was made in public, with a physical act, with a witness declaration. The debt was not simply forgiven. The system that created it was named, condemned, and structurally corrected. Nehemiah understood what Solomon understood. Debt at interest within a community does not transfer money. It transfers power, and the accumulation of that power in the hands of creditors eventually concentrates the wealth of an entire community into the hands of a small group of lenders. 3,000 years before modern economists named this dynamic, it was already in the governance record of ancient Israel. We have the diagnosis. We have the historical law. We have the 3 layers of Solomon's understanding. But here is the question you are sitting with right now. And I know it because I have sat with it myself. What do I actually do about this? The framework is coming. But first I need to tell you about a man. A real conversation about what debt actually does. Not to a balance sheet, but to a life. Stay with me. This is the part that changes things. Picture a man. He is 44 years old. He works in finance, which is almost unbearably ironic given what I am about to tell you. He manages other people's money for a living. He understands compound interest. He understands amortization schedules. He can read a balance sheet in minutes, and yet his mortgage is 18 years from being paid off. He carries a car payment. His children's school fees are on a payment plan. He has a personal loan he took 3 years ago to cover a business gap that never really closed. And every month, he sits down at his kitchen table, the same table where his children eat breakfast, the same table where his family gathers, and he works through the numbers. And the numbers never add up. Not because he is irresponsible, not because he is unintelligent, but because every obligation he signed has a built-in mechanism ensuring that the early payments go almost entirely to interest. The principal, the actual debt, barely moves. He is working harder every year and falling behind every year. Not because the world is against him, but because the architecture of his agreements was engineered that way from the day he signed them. He told me something I have not been able to forget. He said, "I am 44. I feel like I have been working for 20 years, and I have almost nothing to show for it that is actually mine. The house is the bank's. The car is the lender's. The business equipment is the finance company's. I go to work every day to pay people I have never met for things I thought I owned." Solomon sat with that man 3,000 years before he was born and wrote 4 words that described his entire life. The borrower is slave. And then, because Solomon never diagnosed without prescribing, he left us the exit. The framework has 4 components. They are sequential. You do not skip to step 3. The order is the architecture. If this teaching is giving you something real, something you can apply this week, hit the like button right now. It costs you nothing, and it tells us to put this in front of more people who need it. Step 1. The ceiling rule, Babylonian Talmud, Bava Metzia. The 30% obligation ceiling. In traditional Jewish commercial practice, documented within the Talmudic tractate dealing with property and commercial law, a merchant was considered financially irresponsible if his total debt obligations exceeded 1/3 of his annual income, not 1/3 of his net worth. 1/3 of his income, because net worth is theoretical. Income is operational. The question is not what you are worth on paper. The question is what portion of your actual monthly productive capacity is pre-assigned to someone else. The practical application today is this: calculate your current monthly income. Calculate your total monthly debt payments, every single one. If that number exceeds 30% of your monthly income, you are, by the standard of ancient commercial wisdom, in a structurally dangerous position. Not shameful, dangerous. There is a difference. Dangerous means it needs to be corrected with urgency. Step 2. Productive debt versus consumptive debt. Solomon understood, and the entire Hebrew commercial framework reflects this, that not all debt is the same category of obligation. In Talmudic commercial law, there was a critical distinction between two types of financial obligation. The first was debt taken to create a productive asset, something that would generate more value than the cost of the obligation. A merchant borrowing to purchase inventory that he would sell at profit. A farmer borrowing for seed that would produce a harvest exceeding the loan. The second was debt taken for consumption, to fund a current lifestyle at the expense of future income. The ancient framework held the first as commercially legitimate. The second was considered, in the language of Talmudic scholarship, as eating your future, consuming tomorrow's resources for today's comfort. Here is the question to apply to every debt obligation you currently carry or are considering. Is this debt purchasing an asset that will produce more than it costs, or is it funding consumption? Mortgage on a property that appreciates and generates rental income, potentially productive. Personal loan to fund a vacation, pure consumption. The distinction is not moral judgment. It is architectural clarity. Every consumptive debt you carry is eating your future income before you earn it. Step 3. The exit plan first. The pre-contract requisite from Talmudic commercial law. Here is the rule that no bank will ever require of you, because it protects you rather than them. In traditional Hebrew commercial agreements, the tanim, the conditional clauses embedded in commercial contracts, the exit conditions were documented before the agreement was finalized, not as fine print, not as a theoretical option, as a required element of the agreement itself. Before a merchant entered a debt obligation, the framework for resolving that obligation was documented with specificity. Under what conditions? On what timeline? Through what mechanism? With what milestone confirming progress? The application today is concrete. Before signing any debt agreement, write out your exit plan, not a vague intention, a documented sequence. By this date, the balance will be reduced to this amount. By this mechanism, extra payments, refinancing trigger, asset sale, the obligation will be extinguished. If your income changes in this way, the payment adjusts by this method. If you cannot write a credible exit plan before signing the agreement itself is structurally unsound. That is not my opinion. It is the ancient commercial standard. Step 4. The 7-year reset. The Shemitah principle. Deuteronomy 15. This is the step most people stop before reaching, and it is the one that changes the entire relationship with debt. Deuteronomy chapter 15 verse 1. At the end of every 7 years you must cancel debts. The Shemitah, the sabbatical year, was a national debt reset built into the economic calendar of ancient Israel. Every 7 years, outstanding debt obligations within the community were released. Creditors could not pursue them. The slate was cleared. Now, I am not suggesting that your bank will honor Shemitah. They will not. But here is the principle beneath the principle. Solomon's economy was designed around 7-year financial cycles, not arbitrarily, because research across centuries of commercial history shows that approximately every 7 years, economic conditions shift significantly enough to change the context of long-term obligations. The practical application is this: review every debt obligation you carry on a 7-year planning horizon. Ask, what will this obligation look like in 7 years if nothing changes? Am I structurally committed to a payment that will still be current when my income, family situation, and economic context look completely different? And then plan, specifically, concretely, with written dates, to be free of every consumptive debt obligation within 7 years. This is not an aspiration. This is a planning framework. The difference between a person who vaguely wants to be debt-free someday and a person who has a specific 7-year exit plan with quarterly milestones is not income. It is architecture. Build the architecture. If this teaching has given you something you can apply this week, not someday, this week, what you receive today is one layer of a much deeper body of wisdom. Every week, we go further inside the ancient principles that the most enduring builders of wealth in human history encoded in scripture, in law, and in commercial practice. Solomon left us more than we have been taught. And now, before we close, I want to invite you into something different. This prayer is not for the person who wants a shortcut to wealth. It is for the builder who is tired of working hard and watching a significant portion of everything they produce go to servicing someone else's financial interest. It is for the person who signed agreements in good faith and now feels the architecture of those agreements pressing against them every single month. Close your eyes if you can. If you are driving or cannot close your eyes, simply align your thoughts with these words. What we are about to speak together is not a formality. It is a reorientation. Let us pray. Father, we come before you not with a demand for more, but with a request for clarity. We confess that we have signed agreements we did not fully understand, that we trusted a system designed to serve itself before it served us, that we believed the language of access when we should have asked the harder questions first. Lord, forgive us for the places where we built our financial lives on anxiety and imitation, rather than on wisdom and design. Today, we commit our plans to you, the way Solomon taught us, by rolling the weight off, transferring the burden, acknowledging that what we steward was never fully ours to begin with. Give us the discipline to run the numbers honestly. Give us the courage to write the exit plan before we sign the agreement. Give us the wisdom to distinguish between debt that builds and debt that consumes. And for those who are right now sitting with a number they have never written down, a percentage of their income that belongs to someone else before it belongs to them, give them not shame, but clarity, not condemnation, but a path. You are the God who instituted the year of release. You are the God who told your people, you will lend to many nations and borrow from none. You are the God whose economy was designed from the beginning to produce freedom, not obligation. Let every financial decision we make from this day forward be one that moves us toward that design. Establish the plans of those who commit their way to you. In the name of Jesus Christ, go. Build with precision. And may every obligation you carry from this day forward be one you chose with your eyes fully open.